Good evening. Welcome to the finale, the final round tonight at RRF1. We rise together, and it is Portimao. The Portuguese sun will set on RF1 for this season in preparation for the new season ahead. But it is tonight with a bit of a twist, because there is no qualifying. It is a reverse grid. And this is bound to be a bit of a crazy one. A lot of the overtaking opportunities you get around Portimao are sort of half-hearted moves, unless you're fully alongside, especially the very fast and dangerous overtaking opportunity into turn one that, of course, we saw Lewis Hamilton make a great move on Bottas a few years ago when Mercedes actually had a good car. So we'll see what people do around here. Usually with how long the DRS straight is here in the run you can get off the final corner, people tend to have the move done before they get to turn one anyway, so I don't think we'll see too many incidents there. You do find to get more incidents when people come out of the pits, because it leads straight into the braking zone of turn one. So that is one to watch out for. 13 drivers have turned up for tonight's race. The final race, of course. So for everyone that is watching, remember you do have that lovely 5-minute break beforehand to get your setups and everything ready, as there is no qualifying. So do not ready up early for the love of all that is Jesus Christ and God, because I am a wee bit tired. So I could do with not being on here for 7 hours of restarts. Quick look at the grid then, as we move down. Dar Timms is going to be a pole sitter ahead of Hayden Elite. Brannon starts P3. He's going to be one of the quicker guys on the grid, so he's one to watch out for. He starts alongside A72M. Baker Gaming starts in 5th alongside Whitey. Then you have Raratron on row 4 alongside Atkins. TSD Apex will start on row 5 alongside Scott. And then you have our champion, the Dark Mark, starting in P11 ahead of Stig 96er, and then bringing up the rear is Gaming Minion. Looks like it's a dry start, but it is very, very cloudy. I'll tell you what, it would really spice things up if the final race of the season wasn't only a reverse grid, but a changeable weather race as well. That's always the best race to commentate on. Horrific to drive in, because you don't know what to do, or I don't know what to do. My strategies are about as comparable to Ferrari's strategy team. But yeah, hopefully this delivers or promises, or delivers on its promise, should I say, if I can get my words out. Just notice as well the Red Bull pit crew there just staring at the TV screen. Oh, flash of rain! We have rain! What tyres have people gone for? Is it going to start off slightly dry? Well, there we have it. Changeable conditions straight away. It was dry. The rain has just started to spit. Now, I am not going to look at what tyres people are going onto, because that would be cheating. We're going to wait for the start of the race and see what people opt to go for. Will anyone risk starting on slick tyres for the early advantage, or are they going to start on intermediates so they don't have to make that first pit stop and hope they don't lose too much time at the start? As I was mentioning, the Red Bull pit crew there that we're looking at in TSD Apex's pit garage, they look very calm and collected. They are not moving. Typical of the Red Bull team. They know everything is in hand, having the world's fastest Formula 1 car. They're sitting there relaxing, watching the TV. They've got some medium tyres on show, so that would tell me that their first pit stop will be onto medium, so maybe they're doing soft medium or hard medium initially. Or they've just left the tyres out and can't be bothered to change them. Who knows? You'll notice as well the Red Bull team are very confident there'll be no front wing changes. Whereas if you look at the pit crew next to them, the Ferrari team, there is one there already. They are very confident that the Scuderia Ferrari are going to need to use that red that red front wing. Very different strategies in play from both teams already. Rain looks like it's getting heavier. And you can see that the Red Bull pit crew have changed those medium tyres to soft tyres. So I wonder if that means that the Red Bull driver of TSD Apex has maybe gone for intermediates to start with, to finish on the softs. Does that mean we could have changeable weather during the race? But it's definitely raining a bit harder now. No patches on the in the pit lane yet, but that to me looks like a slam dunk to start on intermediates. It doesn't look like you want to be risking that on dry tyres. But then, of course, I am one of the worst people to ask for strategy tips. Mr. Brannan says it's dry for him. Is it raining on one half of the grid and not raining on the other half of the grid? Is it raining in the pit lane but dry on the track? I said it's very grey. Definitely raining in the pit lane, but looks to be a dry start maybe. Is it one of those weather conditions where it's spitting but won't quite get wet enough to actually change the intermediates, which means we could have quite an interesting slippery start to this race? It's dry in the race, they're saying as well, so everyone telling me it's dry, but I'm looking at a rainy screen right now. And there is definitely water droplets now and wet patches forming in the pit lane. I can see them on that dark strip of tarmac just alongside where the cars actually pull in to their pit garages. Well, we'll see, won't we, when it starts? Woodsy with memory of the day already. Last time we saw a wet Portugal, RRF1 yeeted Darkmark off the track. Could we see the same again? Because that weather looks like it's getting heavier. Not the weather. How can weather get heavy? Weather is it is what it is. The rain is getting heavier. But yeah, last race of the season, reverse grids. Interesting weather. We've got it all here in RRF1. I, of course, make my return to RRF1 racing on Mondays, next time out, when the season restarts. Then you will have the pleasure for your ears to be serenaded. Oh, here we have the formation lap, and it does look dry, doesn't it? So it was just raining in the pit lane. Let's have a quick look on board. Bone dry. So it was raining in the pit lane, but dry on the track. Maybe Bernie Eccleston's turned on the sprinklers so that when people come into the pits, it's slippery as hell. So there we go. False news. Fake news, everybody. Fake news. Let's have a look what tyres everyone's gone on to then. So a bit of a mix, a bit of a pitter-patter of what people have gone for. Darth Timms, Brannan, Whitey, Raratron, Stig and Gamer Minion all opting to go aggressive at the start and go for the soft compound of tyres. And then Hayden Elite, A72, Bakey Gaming, Atkins, TSD Apex, Scott and the Darkmark have all opted to start on the medium compound of tyres. So Ferrari split their strategy. Aston Martin have split their strategy. But Alpine and Williams, have opted for the same one. And yes, Zandvoort vibes. That was, of course, the last reverse grid I commentated on, and that was absolute insanity. Great entertainment, but absolute insanity. There's a lack of graphics that I can pull up this time because I only just got back in from work, so I didn't have time to update my stream. So let me have a quick look. I know the Constructors was quite close, wasn't it? So let's have a quick look at the standings. No, it's not close. Alpine are the champions. So Alpine were the Constructors champions. Is it close anywhere else? AlphaTauri are 19 points behind McLaren in the battle for third, and Aston are just 14 points behind them. Haas are just 4 points behind, who was that? Mercedes. And in the Drivers' Championship, anything going on here? So Atkins looking to catch Apex. Whitey looking to try and overtake Ewan, which could be done, and they're lining up on the grid, so let's get back to the business. So let's go on to broadcast mode. Get rid of that shenanigans. 4 lights, 5 lights here for the final race of the season. It's lights out and away we go. Darth Tim's on pole alongside Hayden Elite. It looks like Brannan has got a good start. He's going to try and go through the middle of both cars into turn 1. Gets ahead of the Mercedes, but the Mercedes is going to try and hang it round. Brannan gets through both cars on those soft tyres. Good start from the Astons. They are 1 and 2, but Darth Tim's is trying to come back around the outside and does it. Lovely move from Darth Tim's. Further back, Raratron is going backwards. He's down to P9, side by side with the Alpine. It goes for a move up the inside of who is that? Oh, and there's chaos. Absolute chaos. There's a Williams that scared everyone. And then the 2 Alpines appear to have got caught up with Gaming Minion there. So crazy start already. And Raratron, after his lovely move up the inside of the McLaren, is up to P7. And now looking for a move and on the Alfa Romeo. Sorry, on the Haas. And gets that move done as well. Rara on the move here. Early doors in Portimao, and the Haas is going to try and hang it right round. He's going to come back here up the inside of the long left-hander before the tight left-hander, and the Haas gets the move back on the medium tyres. Great move there from Atkins. Brannan, meanwhile, has Darth Tim's all over his rear end, and the Alfa Romeo of Raratron is going to try and hang this all the way around the outside on the grippier soft tyres. Is he going to get this move done here? It's going to be foot flat to the floor as they head towards turn 1. The Haas looks to have a little bit more straight line speed there. As we go on board with Whitey, who's right on the rear end of Hayden Elite here, the Ferrari. I tell you what, I've said it all season, I would love a Ferrari podium. Just 3/10 of a second between the Aston and the Ferrari. Ferrari having a little nose there. He's on the faster compound tyre, so could do with getting that move done early. And oh, there's another car going very wide at the back there. I think that was Gaming Minion. And as I say that, I've just missed a move here. It is Atkins making moves on a 72M. Gets the move done, and Raratron is next up. And the rain is falling again. And this time it's not in the pit lane. It's on the racetrack. Bernie Eccleston is back with a vengeance. And he's turned on the sprinklers here. Oh, and a punt. We've had a punt from the Raratron. Just as Woodsy predicted. It was only a little kiss, to be fair. Does a little switchback of his own, gets the move done and says, I'm coming through on you, Mr. A72. And Raratron is up to P6. Further back, Bakey Gaming having a little look on the Ferrari A72 here. And Brannan into the pit. So Brannan has decided to pit and come off those soft tyres. Is he going to pit onto some inters? It'll be interesting to see what he goes on to here, but we're looking at Bakey Gaming, who is looking for a move on A72. They both get the move done on Apex there, who's having a little look. Oh, and the Ferrari really wide there. It's getting a little bit dicey out there. Brannan has got onto the intermediate tyres. Gaming Minion is going onto intermediates as well. So they pulled the plug early. We'll soon find out if that is the right call or not. Darkmark looking for a move up the inside of Apex here. Is he going to get this move done? Gets the car stopped nicely, but he's blocked by the McLaren. The McLaren forces the Red Bull off wide, and that's going to open the door for the Darkmark, who says, thank you very much, sir. I'll have a little bit of that. I'm coming through. And he moves himself up into P7. Looked like a little bit of a slide there, but I think that was just the camera angle as Scott follows his teammate through there. TSC Apex will be guessing the McLaren there. As Bakey Gaming ran a little bit wide, and there was a Red Bull on his outside, causing both Alpines to move up into P7 and P8. Of course, the Alpine team doing the double this season with the Darkmark as the champion, and Alpine taking home the constructors. Round the outside goes the Darkmark. No, it's not. It is... Yeah, it is the Darkmark. Round the outside of A72. A lovely move there. Plenty of grip that Darkmark's finding. Is anyone going to pit this lap? We've got Hayden Elite pitting. It looks like some of these drivers are still finding some grip. I'm watching that gap between Brannan and Stig. 12.3 seconds, and it's 15.7 now, actually. Oh, that's between A72, actually. Oh, okay, because people are pitting. That's confusing me now. So we'll see now, actually, where these guys come out in respect to Brannan, because he was ahead of Hayden Elite. And he's cleared him back quite a bit, so he has gained a bit of time, actually. So it looks like Inters are a little bit quicker, but not a huge amount. at the moment, but the ground is getting wet. Oh, big slide there from Brannon as he gets the power down. Let's go a bit further up because Apex is looking to get a move on Scott here. Now, some of these guys opting to stay out. The track is definitely getting wetter. You can see the droplets on the track. So these guys that are staying out will now be quite a bit slower than the interrunners. But is it going to dry up? Are they hoping that they can stay out, weather the storm, and then stay and avoid making that extra pit stop? Yeah, agree, Stroud. Great choice from Brandon. He's got the faster car now. He's gaining on Stig quite quickly. He's getting a second on this lap alone. So we'll see how this compares to the front guys. So Darth Timms has a big 4-second lead at the moment, and Apex getting a little bit out of shape there as he tries to follow the Alpine through. We've got Whitey into the pits, but the front two have stayed out. Rarashon into the pits. We've got Dark Mark into the pits. Everyone coming in now. There's a few guys opting to stay out though and risk it for a biscuit. Darth Timms, Atkins, and Scott have stayed out. Is that a mistake? We'll see what Brannon could do here against the guys that are coming out of the pits now. The Ferrari is on his way out. That is Whitey. Yes, Brannon has cleared him by quite a bit. Whitey's coming out now. Is Hayden Elite going to clear him? Yes, he is. So Brannon has a 3-second lead over Hayden Elite and about 5 seconds clear of Brannon. Apex has picked up a warning there, and we've got our first close. This is what I mentioned. Coming out of the pit lane, it takes you right into the apex of turn 1 in the braking zone, and it looks like it got a little bit close there between Baker Gaming and Gaming Minion, who's managed to undercut Baker Gaming thanks to that earlier pit stop. Brannon then is 12.7 seconds, 12.5 now behind Scott, and about, what's that, about 23 seconds, 22 seconds behind Darth Timms. The other thing these front cars could be doing, if it's going to stay into us for the rest of the race, the guys that have pitted early may well have to pit again, and if they don't, we'll have pretty worn tyres at the end. The front three maybe just weathering this bit where there's still a little bit of grip, in the hope that their inters will last a bit longer and they'll have better grip at the end of the race. Now, Darth Timms is in, so let's have a look where Brannon is in comparison. He was about 20 seconds behind Darth Timms, so he should clear him by about 5 seconds, I believe. 4 or 5 seconds, if my maths is correct, because I think about 24 seconds for a pit stop. We'll soon find out because Darth Timms is on his way. Through goes Darth Timms. It looks like the other Aston is going to clear him as well. It's going to be more than 5 seconds actually looking at that, because the Ferrari of Whitey is coming through as well. This is going to be quite close here. And goes for the move up the inside, gets that move done, and through goes Whitey. Darth Timms has dropped from P2 to P4, and it is about 5 seconds. Is the gap. We've got Raratron and Atkins side by side again. These were side by side before the pit stops. Raratron going for the undercut, almost got it, but not quite. Dark Mark very close as well. 0.3 of a second separating these two drivers. Raratron's going to go move up the inside. Is he going to get it still? We've got a yellow flag somewhere. It's Darth Timms who's out in the gravel. So Darth Timms, that is going to cause a yellow flag, and he's going to be careful with the rejoiner. Yes, very good there. Good driving. Meanwhile, Raratron is still looking for a move there. He got passed by Dark Mark in all of that as he went for the move at the inside of Atkins. Dark Mark once again, ever opportunistic. The champion getting the move done up to P5. These three very close on track. Darth Timms is going to have to come back into it. We don't know what happened with him, but he ended up in the gravel. Dark Mark looking for a move on Atkins now. He's looking pretty racy in the last race of the season here. We saw him do a fabulous move around the outside a few laps ago on dry tyres. Can he look at anything similar on the intermediates as Atkins gets a little bit out of shape? That's going to allow Dark Mark to close up here. He's going to use that ERS and burn it down the straight. I would say the Haas is flashing in front, but that's the rain light, of course, not the lack of ERS. Is he going to look for a move the inside? Is he going to be closer? Not quite. You need to be quite a bit alongside, really, to make a move there. And the Haas misses the apex a little bit there, but carries the speed through nicely. And these three very close indeed. Let's go back on board with Darth Timms, who has cut that gap to A72 pretty quickly indeed. And here comes Scott. The inside has a little look on Darth Timms, but no room at the in. Is he going to try and go right around the outside? Or maybe go for an undercut here as he aims, and he is going to go for the undercut. It's a lovely move. He's managed to box the Mercedes in here, actually, as he heads towards the hairpin. Gets the move done. That is lovely driving from the Alpine. And the Ferrari runs wide, and that causes the Mercedes to run wide. There is a severe lack of grip, and A72 manages to hang on. Becky Gaming now goes through and takes advantage, and Darth Timms, unfortunately for him, had nowhere to go, got boxed in, and then the Ferrari just ran out of grip, and Scott then moves up to P8. Lovely bit of strategic driving there from the Alpine man. Further up then, where are the gaps? Oh, Baker Gaming actually is on the rear end of A72 still. Track looking pretty wet now. The rain doesn't like it's letting up anytime soon, but we're very early on into this race, just a quarter. In fact, we're less than a quarter way through. We're just over a fifth of the way through this race. Bit of early maths for you. Let's go on board with Baker Gaming here. Foot flat to the floor, that's risky, and it takes the ERS early as the A72 then runs a little bit wide in the Ferrari. That Ferrari looks pretty quick in a straight line, I have to say. But he's run deep there, and he's going to run a little bit wide. That might allow Baker Gaming a chance to have a look up the inside, but he's not close enough. Ooh, almost grazes the rear end of A72. Keep my eye on the battle further up, because Atkins... Oh, as I say that, Atkins has made the move. What's happened to Whitey? Who's 6/10, and then the move was passed. So I think Whitey may have made a mistake somewhere. And the Ferrari man down to P4, breaking the Scuderia hearts and my heart in the process. Because, of course, we want to see a Ferrari on that podium at the end of this race. That is nothing against anybody else, but I have been dreaming of a Ferrari podium all season. They have been the luckless team. They've had issues. They've delivered some incredible battles, but they have not delivered on what I want, and that is a guy in a red suit standing on the podium. Stig picks up a 3-second time penalty. Dark Martin now looking to get a move done on Whitey. Can he get the move? Goes up the inside. If he's finding grip where people aren't, it's the sort of a trait that they used to say Lewis Hamilton could do. You know, finding grip where other people don't find the grip. And there's someone pitting there. That is... What's Brannon doing? Is Brannon... He's gone for a very aggressive, bold strategy choice in this race. So while pitting for anybody else onto the Inters. Let's have a look what he goes into here. So Whitey's very close here. I don't want to miss any overtakes. He runs wide there. Let's have a look what Brannon goes on to. It's another set of intermediate tyres. So is he hoping to take these to the end now? Does that mean we've got a wet race for the rest of the time? Interesting that those tyres only lasted 7 or 8 laps before he felt the need to change those. Unless he's picked a bit of damage from somewhere. But he comes out in P12. All 4 drivers ahead of him have a penalty. Let's go a bit further up to Rarachon, who is next in line to have a go at Whitey, as Dartmark, our reigning champion now, will be looking to defend his championship next season. He's currently running in the podium positions. Rarachon is looking to see if he can get a little bit of luck here. He's had some good performances this season, but he's also had some horrendous luck to go with it. So it'd be great to see Rarachon get a good result here tonight. So there's a few drivers here that I'd love to say, love to get a good result. It's sort of a rewarding result, if you would say. And those drivers are the Ferraris, and it would, like I said, it'd be great to see Rarachon get a result. Of course, Rarachon, I started to say before actually, you'll hear the lovely silky voice, the incredible commentary of Rarachon next season on Mondays. One of my favourite commentators. So please make sure you tune into Monday nights when the new season starts, as Rarachon is closing, but not quite close enough as they come down the hill into turn 1. Further back we have Darth Timms looking for a move. Ooh, look like he got a little bit out of shape here. And again, that Ferrari is hard to pass in a straight line. If you're going to make a move, it's got to be in the corners. Darth Timms trying to recover after his spin earlier on, and there's a McLaren there making a bit of a mistake, running wide. That is Baker Gaming ahead. Darth Timms getting the power down early there, and you can see he's got the drag. He's going to go for the outside here. Is he going to make it stick right around the outside? Gives plenty of room. The Ferrari is, and that's a lovely move. That's brilliant driving from the pair of them. Both almost gave too much space there. Let's go on board with TSD Apex, who's going for a move around the outside. That's bold. Which comes the inside. Is he going to keep his nose in? Not quite enough space there. Runs a little bit over the sausage curb, and that just unsettles the Red Bull a little bit. And the Ferrari of Whitey hangs on for just a few more corners, but it almost seems inevitable that that Red Bull is coming through as he runs deep. It looks like he's struggling in these tricky conditions. TSD Apex has got his man in his sights. Can he make the move here? Rautron there, almost drifting around the final corner. As Whitey picks up a 3-second time penalty for running wide. Oh, gets a little bit of a twitch on. And TSD Apex looks like it's going to get this move done into turn 1. Here we go. It's Red Bull versus Ferrari into turn 1. And TSD Apex gets that move done nicely ahead of Whitey up into P5. Brannon, meanwhile, has got the move done on A72. A72 gets back into the slipstream to see if he can come back at him, but again, no way through there. Brannon has the grippier, fresher intermediates on, 5 laps younger than A72. Further up, it's Scott's turn to have a go at Whitey. The Ferraris, unfortunately, seem to be heading in the wrong direction, and they are not enjoying the intermediate conditions. Through goes Scott as Whitey gets onto the curb and gets a little bit squirrely. What happened to Brandon? Did he burn his tyres out? I'm not really sure what happened to Brandon. He's pitted. Maybe he didn't think his tyres were going to go to the end, so he's pitted early to get the undercut, and then he'll just take him to the end. Or maybe he thinks that everyone else is going to have to pit before it dries out, if it's going to dry out. So he thinks that he'll pit now. Everyone else will pit. He'll have got the undercut, so he'll be well in the lead, and then it'll dry out ready for the soft tyres. Who knows? Brandon was aggressive on his first pit stop. He's gone aggressive on his second pit stop. And he's certainly making some moves through the field already. Atkins, meanwhile, has caught to the back up to Hayden Elite in the battle for the lead. Here he comes, going for the move. Goes to the inside. Is Hayden Elite going to move to defend this? I think this is going to be Atkins' corner. Through goes the Haas car. Is he going to keep it within track limits, though? Yes, he does. Nice move from Atkins. There's been some good driving today from the Haas driver. Further back, we've got Scott and Apex doing battle as Scott gets the move done into turn 1 as well. Meanwhile, Brannon has got the move done on Darth Timms in all of that. Darth Timms actually lost some time since he was about 3 seconds behind Baker Gaming. He's now about 4.5 seconds off Baker Gaming, and Brannon in between them. So he has lost a little bit of time after fighting near the front earlier on when the track was dry. TSD Apex, who's still on the rear, and you can almost tell who's running maybe drier setups than wet setups here from the drivers that are making their way to the front. Atkins absolutely flying in these conditions at the moment. Scott picks up a 3-second time penalty. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drivers now that haven't got a penalty. This track is tricky to stay penalty free in the dry, let alone in wet conditions. So gaps just starting to form here as Scott is the only man really within a second. So let's go on board with Scott and just see what these conditions are really like on board one of the championship cars. The Alpine team who fended off Red Bull, who tried to make a comeback and tried to fight them off, but Alpine held them off and extended their lead in the last couple of races to help the French outfit do the double. A bit of a sideways moment from Scott there in the final long right-hander meant that he's not going to be close enough for a move into turn 1 behind Raratron. These two have fallen off the front three a little bit. Darkmark is he's 1.5 seconds off Hayden Elite, who is just over a second behind Atkins. But it looks like Darkmark is making his move. He's been slowly sort of reeling these front two in. Could we see the champion sign off this season with a victory, or will Brannon's bold strategy pay off and deliver the Aston Martin man a victory here? I think those are the two at the moment we're looking at. Not to discount Atkins, because he's driving a phenomenal race. I think at the moment those are the three drivers that seem to be on the radar. Let's go on board with Darkmark here actually, because he is catching Hayden Elite fairly quickly now. 1.1 seconds, it was 1.6 at the start of the lap. Bit of a moment there, drops a couple of tenths. 2.5 is the gap between, it's come down quite a bit there actually. 2.4 is the gap between Atkins and Darkmark, as Stig picks up a 3-second time penalty. Close from there, but let's go on board with Mr. Brannon, the man on the move, the man with the bold strategy. Look and see if he can make a move on Baker Gaming. He has the freshest tyres of everybody. Everyone else now has done more laps than what Brannon did on his tyres. So either, like I said, he's going for an aggressive strategy to undercut everybody, just rely on his tyre conservation to get him to the end. Or he believes it will dry up after everyone else has made their pit stops. You hope it rains on Wednesday, Mr. Stroud. I couldn't think of anything worse than a wet race. I imagine Portimao is horrific in the wet. So Brannan has made that move ahead of Baker. Game moves himself into P8. Let's have a quick look at the gap to the leader. So at the moment, Brannan is about 20 seconds off the lead. So that means he's got a net lead of about 5 or 6 seconds ahead of Atkins. So he has undercut. He has extended that lead over Atkins. Not by a lot, though. So Atkins shown he still has pace on those worn tyres. Let's have a quick look back to... Let's go on board with Scott, who has really caught up to the rear end of Raratron now in the battle for P4. Of course, Scott is carrying that time penalty. Darkmark is now just 4/10 of a second behind Hayden Elite as well. Those are your two closest battles on track. Brannan just a second behind Whitey. He's catching up to the lead Ferrari. He's currently running in P7. Let's go on to Darkmark here as he rounds the final corner. 3/10 of a second behind, using all of the track. Like I said, he's finding quite a bit of grip out there, is Darkmark. Same with Atkins. Those two seem to be running along very nicely on those intermediates. No move to be made there from the Darkmark. Not close enough for Scott either. Let's still go on board with Mr. Brannan. Yeah, Brannan looks like he should get this move done on White. He's using his, not using his ERS, but he's going to go for the outside here around turn 1. That's going to be bold if he gets this one sticky. He has the grip. He'll then cut to the inside. Oh, and the almost touch as the Ferrari gets a little bit out of shape. But good driving there. Both drivers to avoid each other. Great battling. And Brannan, again, bold with his strategy, bold with his moves. And up to P7 goes the Aston Martin. Back aboard with Scott then through the hairpin. Half a second back from Raratron. Atkins has extended that advantage a little bit over the chasing pair as Whitey and Brannan. Whitey's got back ahead. Brannan there, actually. I missed that one. So, Whitey, good retaliation there from the Ferrari. I'm not sure if Brannan had a moment. So he'll have to do that all over again. Let's go back on board with Scott, though, because it's just 2/10 of a second. Can he get the move done on Raratron this time? These guys have been falling back. Brannan, I've missed the overtake again. This time, Brannan. They side by side. They are side by side. Let's go on board with them. Brannan's going to go right around the outside, and the Ferrari gets a little bit squirrely there as he tries to get the power down to fend off the Aston Martin. But Brannan through then to P7. Let's go on board with Darkmark here because this time he is looking for the move. Gets the move done on the Aston Martin. We have a yellow flag as well. It is... Who is it? I think it is Scott. It is Scott's made a mistake there. And down the order goes the Alpine man. Brannan then up to P6 with a free pass. And now the Ferrari is going to look for a move on Scott as well. He'll have the momentum. He pushes that ERS button. Can he get moved on Scott? This is not what Scott's going to want to see. Into turn 1. Through goes the Ferrari. And the Alpine just cuts him off. Runs a little bit wide though. And that is P7 held on to for Scott after that moment he's had on the final corner. Dartim still down in P10, not showing the pace he had on the dry tyres. And White there actually making a move on Scott. I think Scott's having a few moments. He's struggling a bit now in these conditions seem to be getting worse. That is looking like a very wet track now. I wonder if anybody would risk a wet set of tyres, or is it not wet enough yet? Because those inters can clear quite a bit of standing water. But Scott hangs on to P7 for now. Runs a bit wide there in the Ferrari in the background. Almost, he loses that rear bit and almost touches the McLaren, but again they avoid each other. Good bit of driving in these tricky conditions. Through goes Baker Gaming into P8, and Whitey's going to have to come back in him here. The Ferraris are dropping down the order in the wet, treacherous conditions of Portugal. Who said Portugal was a sunny holiday? It's certainly not sunny here today. It is absolutely chucking it down now, and we'll go on board here with Whitey. And you can see, look at the puddles. If you can stay online, it's definitely still Inter's conditions if you can stay online, but offline, that looks about as tricky as you can get on Inter tyres. You can see having to feather the throttle there as he just comes off system, and into the pits there comes Scott. What is Scott going to go on to? Is it going to be a new set of Inters, or is he going to risk a set of wets? Like I said, if you can stay on the racing line, then the Inters are fine. And it is full wet tyres for Scott and for Stig. So this is the telltale sign. Is this the right call? Because offline it is treacherous. But if you can stay online, then it's not wet enough for wet tyres yet. But it's such a thin, you can see where it is. But look how wet it is offline. So let's have a look. Let's go on board then with Scott and see what it's like. And he's running a bit wide there, but you can do that in the dry, to be fair, coming out the pits. So look at the gap. He's 11 seconds behind A72M. And he's 2.2 ahead of Whitey. So we'll see what... And he's already gaining time, isn't he? Could this be the right decision from Scott to regain some of that time he lost as he locks up both front tyres there into the hairpin? 10.6 seconds now. That gap is coming down quite quickly behind A72M. But Whitey is not being dropped either. He's still 2 seconds behind, and he pitted for a fresh set of intermediate tyres. So it could just be that whether you're on fresh wets or fresh inters, you're going to be a lot quicker than the worn intermediate tyres at the moment. Let's go back up to the lead because Dartmark has closed that gap to Atkins to just 0.7 of a second in the battle for the lead. Let's have a look at the gap to Brannan. Brannan at the moment is 21 seconds back. Brannan is not gaining on the leaders anymore. And oh, what's happened here? Atkins has made a mistake. Atkins is behind the Dartmark. Sorry, I mean I was on the stream, so hopefully we saw that, but I missed that because I was looking at the timings. But Dartmark then gets the lead of this race. Looks like Atkins made a little bit of a mistake there. So Dartmark now leads this race. But yeah, Brannan is he's 20 seconds off the lead, and he was about 20 seconds off the lead a few laps ago. So he's not really making the impact that he may have hoped to have made in this race so far. Scott is 47 seconds off the lead, so we'll keep our eye on that gap. See if that comes down at all with the conditions, because it's just going to get wetter. 47.3 is the gap at the moment. Stig is 1 minute 20 behind, and very close to being a lap down. Yeah, Stig's just about to cross the line now, and you see these guys coming around the final corner. Dartmark absolutely flying now, second clear of Atkins. Brannan 19.8 behind, and Scott 46.7 behind now. So he is gaining a little bit on the leaders, but Whitey is also gaining a little bit. Oh yeah, he's not really being dropped, should I say, by Scott. So I think the Inters at this point are probably still just about the quicker tyre, but not by much. It's just that when you go offline and you end up in those puddles, then the wet tyres are going to be a much bigger advantage for you. And you can see that the gap is coming down a little bit, but not by enough. 46 seconds now, the gap between Scott and the Dartmark. So we'll keep our eye on what that comes down to. We'll see what Brannan opts to do. He has been quite aggressive on strategy so far, but he's opting to stay out at the moment. Dartmark is 0.9 of a second clear of Atkins, and Haydenley has dropped a little bit further back. Whitey, meanwhile, has gained on Scott. He's just a second behind now. So yeah, so I think the Inters still are the quicker tyre. And like I said, if he can stay on that racing line, then at the moment the racing line is still intermediate conditions. You can see that grey patch of track in between all those puddles. So we'll stay with Whitey now and just see what it's like following. Let's see what the different lines these two take in comparison as to what might be the better tyre. Because Scott is catching A72, so the Ferrari team could basically help his team out quite a lot here if he can hold Scott up a little bit. Gaming Minion comes into the pits then. We'll see what tyres he's going on to. He could end up going a lap down here actually. I think he's going to go a lap down because the front three are about to come flying past. Are they? No, he's coming out of the pits. He's gone onto a fresh set of intermediate tyres. He needs to get up to speed quickly, otherwise he's going to have to let them pass, and he'll never be able to get past them. Yeah, I think he's going to have to let them go. He's looking on the track map. So Whitey's now dropped back to about 1.4 seconds behind. It looks like it's different parts of the track. Yeah, you can see there, Gaming just getting it well out of the way there on track. So it's different parts of the track is interweather, and different parts seems to be wet weather. Scott, meanwhile, has caught up to the rear end of Darth Tim of A72 pretty quickly now, and he's now 43.8 behind the leaders. So that gap is coming down. That's about 4 seconds he's gained on the leaders since he pitted. So Scott certainly gaining quite a lot of time back that he lost when he had that incident, had that little spin. But he needs to make moves. He needs to do them quickly. Goes for a move here. Oh, that was close. Scott really looking to try and make the move here. You see how wet it is offline, but he can get the power down a lot better in the front. Look at the traction advantage that he's got there. He should get this move done into the... oh, and who's that off track? Oh, there's a spin. Did he get hit from behind there, or has he just lost it under braking? Not quite sure what happened there. I was on board with him looking in front. Didn't realise how close the Ferrari was behind, but either way, if he has had a bit of a hit from behind, then that's teamwork from the Ferraris. Not that's any consolation to Scott, who's now got both Ferraris trying to overtake. Atkins has caught back up to the rear end of Dartmark as well. Brannon now on the rear end of Apex, as he looks to try and gain the positions back that he lost after pitting fairly early off his first set of intermediates. Quick shout out to everyone for joining in tonight. We've got 7 viewers. What's happening here? Oh, Raritron into the pits. What is Raritron going to go into? That'll be interesting to see. Fresh set of inters or wet? Look at the rain. He's gone for a fresh set of inters, so he's not confident that it's wet enough. And again, it's just that decision whether you think you can keep it online or whether it's just a bit too wet and it's a bit slippery and you want to be a bit safer with the wet tyres. But he has opted to pit for some fresh intermediate tyres. So he'll come out in P6, and lovely bit of a clear track and penalty free. We've got Apex also. He's got to come out behind Scott. Is he? Oh, I'm behind Dr. Timms as well. So Scott. Oh, what's happened to my thing? It's just dropped to the bottom. So Scott, meanwhile, has got his move done on one of the Ferraris. Whitey is further up the road on those fresher intermediates. I think the guys that have been onto fresh inters are probably, if they can keep it on the line, have probably made the right decision here. A72 meanwhile losing out to Apex, and Darth Timms getting his way through. But Darth Timms, oh, and Apex there just chopping the nose off there of the Mercedes driver. A72 on 17 lap old inters now. They are going to be screaming a little bit. All these guys on worn inters will be wanting to pit. Hayden Elite goes for the undercut on the front two. So this is going to be quite interesting to see. And in comes Brannon. So he is pitting for the final time. So he's pitting now. That makes me wonder why he pitted earlier on. So if he ends up on the podium, we will have to ask him that. Whether he picked a bit of damage from somewhere. Because he's now... He's done an extra pit stop over everybody else, really, hasn't he? And yeah, fresh set of intermediates going on for Brannon then. Rautron comes steaming down the pit straight up into P5. Hayden Elite has just rounded turn 3, is that? Yes, turn 3 for Hayden Elite. Meanwhile, Whitey has got ahead of Brannon as well. Scott on those wet tyres. Trying to catch up what he can, but I just don't think it ever quite got wet enough. It looked like it was getting wet, but never quite wet enough for the wet tyres to really make a difference. What's interesting now is what the front two do, because if we look at the gap to the leader, Hayden Lee is 28 seconds behind, and that gap is coming down corner by corner. 27.9 now the gap. If they don't pit this lap, they could find themselves undercut from the Aston Martin, and it's not the easiest place to overtake. Or no track is the easiest place to overtake in the wet. Hayden Lee is down to 27.3 now, and they're not pitting. They opted not to pit. There is still 11 laps to go. We have a yellow flag. It is A72M. Looks to have made a mistake somewhere. He's quite far back in the pack now. We've got Apex still on the rear end of Scott. He's looking to make a move. I think the intermediates are coming back into their own now, and he drives right around the outside of Scott. And yeah, I don't think the wet weather gamble or the wet tyre gamble has paid off, unfortunately, for the Alpine man, as it sort of goes from bad to worse for Scott. Meanwhile, with Hayden Elite, needs to get this move done pretty quickly to have any chance of catching and undercutting the front two. He is about 25.5 seconds, 26.5 seconds off the lead at the moment. So if he can get this move done quickly, as Brannon gets the move done ahead of Whitey before turn 1. Let's go on board now with Hayden Elite. Needs to get this move done. McLaren runs a little bit deep. If he can get the power on quickly on those fresher tyres, he should get the traction and get this move done. Puts the ERS on now, and he has got the move done. Nice move there. Good battling there between Hayden Elite and Baker Gaming. I would not rule Hayden Elite out here for a potential victory, because those front two, their tyres are going to just continue to degrade, and it's 24.5 seconds now, the gap between Hayden Elite and the leaders. So we will find out what is Dark Mark going to do. Is he going to pit to protect that lead, or is he going to opt to stay? If he stays out this time, then you've got to believe he may just stay out to the end. Is the rain getting lighter? Is it going to dry up before the end? Is that what they're banking on? The rain is getting a bit lighter. There are less puddles offline now. So these front two carry on. Hayden Elite is taking chunks out of them. I mean, even Rariton now, is who is back in P5 and a bit further back, he's taking chunks out of them. We could have Hayden Elite and Rariton both stealing possessions on the podium, and Brannan, once again aggressive on strategy, is hoping to try and steal through in the end as well. These front two have gambled on staying out, still 9.5 laps to go, and you couldn't pick a winner at this stage. Hayden Elite is having to do a monumentous push drive to try and gain 22 seconds on the front two, but he is gaining chunks on them per lap. This is not over by any means. This was always going to be a banger. It's a wet race. It started off dry. It never quite got to wet weather tyres, but it has been, I mean, it's been a strategical nightmare for the drivers out there of what to do and when to do it. Rariton, that's 5.5 seconds behind Baker Gaming. That's 2 seconds he's taken out of Baker Gaming already on this lap alone. Apex taking chunks out of Whitey further back as well. They're all sort of congregating together as there's a driver getting well out of the way there of the front two. That's good to see. As Darkmark now is 22 seconds clear. Are we going to see the front two pit this lap? I think Hayden Elite has got the lead of this race now, if they opt to pit. So I think they've got to stay out. They do. They have to stay out now, and just hope they can hang on for the next 9 laps of the Grand Prix. Hayden Elite needs to really be taking 2 to 2.5 seconds a lap out of them. He's 19.8 seconds behind at the moment. If he crosses the line anywhere close to 16 seconds, then the win is on for Hayden Elite. His tyres are 17 laps younger than the Darkmarks. Let's go back down to TSD Apex here, because he is almost pushing the Ferrari, and the Ferrari running a little bit wide, but manages to close off the Red Bull here, and the Red Bull has got a lovely little run on the Ferrari. You know the Ferrari's been pretty quick in a straight line. This is going to be close into turn 1. He's not quite got his nose ahead. Is he going to be able to turn it first? Yes, he does. He gets the move done, and manages to keep it within the white lines as well. And TSD Apex gets that Red Bull up into P7. Hayden Elite 19.3 seconds behind now, not taking out as much on this lap so far as he did on the previous lap. It's down to 19.0. Really needs to get that under 17 seconds. You would have thought by the time he crosses the line next, he needs to take a lot of time out of the front two. Rariton currently, how far is he off the guys? He's quite a bit further back, so he might need the front two's tyres to go off the cliff, which can happen as Darth Timms has pitted for soft tyres. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's still raining. So this is what the front two have been waiting for. So they are thinking it's going to dry out. And and it is not ready for dries yet, as he almost goes straight off at turn 3. And yeah, he is struggling out there already. 21.9, 22 seconds. Let's see what the gap is as he heads into the hairpin. Can he get it turned? No, he can't. And he is losing bucket loads of times on those soft tyres. A second in a corner there. It is not ready for soft tyres yet. Stig pits for softs as well. I think it's too early. 17.2 seconds then. So he's gained 2 seconds on that lap. Not quite enough for what he needs. There's 8 laps to go and he's 17.3 behind. Having said that, if he continues to catch this rate and the front two up to pit for softs, could Hayden Elite then try and hang on the intermediate tyres on a drying track while the front two are on soft tyres? This is going to switch and turn all the way to the end of this race. The front two's tyres are going to start to overheat as this track dries out, because there's going to be little to no tread left on those intermediates. 16.9 seconds is the gap now, with there's maybe no battles on track at the moment. But I'll tell you what, let's have a look. There's well, say no battles on the track. There's only 7 tenths between the front two, but other than that, there's no battles on track. But as far as the gaps, it's really intriguing to see what these front two are going to do. So Dark Mark pits. The Dark Mark pits. Atkins pits. What will Hayden Lee do? Is he going to throw caution to the wind and go all out for a victory here in the Aston Martin? There is going to be 7 laps to go when he crosses the line. He's going to have about a 10-second advantage, just under 10 seconds, I think, when these front two come out of the pit. And at the moment, the soft tyres are not working, but they could well work for the final 4 or 5 laps of this race. And then it's going to be Dark Mark and Atkins hunting down Hayden Lee. Let's have a look at where Raratron is. Raratron is hurtling down the start-finish straight, closing on the front two, or what was the front two. He's still got Baker Gaming in front of him. He needs to try and clear this. Oh, Dark Mark and Atkins are pitted for inters. Hayden Lee, I think, has pulled an absolute blinder here. I think the Aston Martin has pulled a blinder here, and it's going to win this race. He's 9.7 seconds clear, and his tyres are only 5 laps younger, or 5 laps older than Dark Mark and Atkins. I think Dark Mark and Atkins have said, you know what, they tried it. They tried to hang it out, but it never quite got to the dry stage. The soft tyres were not working for Dar Tims and Stig. They've just gone backwards. So Dark Mark and Atkins have cut their losses, and Hayden Lee is now in the driver's position. Here comes Raratron now, round the outside, hanging it out. Through goes Raratron into P4. Excuse me, sorry. And knocks Baker Gaming down to P5. Baker Gaming on 22-lap old intermediate tyres, trying to coax that McLaren round to hang on to what would be a great result considering where he was halfway through this race. He's now got Brannan hunting him down for a top 5 finish. And and Brannan goes for a bit of a surprise move there, but there's no room at the inn. And Brannan will have to try and do this into turn 1. Dark Mark has taken quite a chunk out of Hayden Lee on that lap. A second in a lap there, actually, over a second. So it might still not be over. I don't want to say it's over. I almost sort of counted almost had the fat lady singing there. And here comes Brannan into turn 1, gets the move done before the braking zone, and through he goes into P5. Plenty more grip for the Aston Martin man. 1 and 5 for Aston Martin now. And 7.6 now the gap between the front two. Could Dark Mark pull this off? This almost has echoes of sort of Hamilton versus Verstappen in Hungary a few years ago, when Hamilton pitted and had to do qualifying laps for the last, 15-20 laps to catch and overtake Max Verstappen. And that's what Dark Mark and Atkins have got to do now. It's qualifying laps every lap for the next 5.5 laps to try and close that gap down and pull off what would be, what seemed when they pitted, an unlikely victory. Meanwhile, Brannan is now on the rear end of Raratron, hoping to try and get P4. He's not out of a shout for a podium yet either, but his tyres are a bit more worn than Atkins and Dark Mark. Like I said, they're all sort of congregating together like a bit of a domino effect here. 6.7 the gap now. We'll see what it is when they cross the finish line as the Mercedes of Darth Tims gets well out of the way. Those soft tyres are not working at all. Scott has opted to go into the soft tyres and he's just losing buckets of time. Literally every time I look, that time is just increasing. They've not worked out at all. And I think they're going to lose too much time, more than a pit stop. I've been in that situation and it is painful to just see the delta just increase and increase. And here comes Brannan looking for a move on Raratron. Raratron currently in P4. It's 6 seconds the gap now with 5 laps to go. Lap 29 of 33. 5.7 the gap. We could have a last lap triple threat battle for the lead here. As Brannan is going to look for a move here on Raratron as the Mercedes is well out of the way. Good driving there from Darth Tims. 5.2 the gap. That gap is coming down a lot. Dark Mark on those fresh inters has their bit between his teeth. He's like a man possessed trying to close that gap down. But while he's the possessed man trying to close the leader down, Atkins is closing Dark Mark down. Like I said, they're all coming together. All 3 of these could meet on the final lap of the race. I cannot pick a winner at all. Any one of those 3 could win this race. But here comes Brannan up the inside of Raratron. Had the extra grip. It's a nice move from the Aston Martin. Raratron is going to hang it out through the inside though. And Brannan is going to try and do the up and under. And not quite got the grip there to do that. Great driving between these two. 4.6 is the gap between the front two. We'll keep our eye on that gap, but at the moment we've got the battle for P4. These two 9 seconds off the back of Atkins, currently in P3. This is the battle for the first place off the podium. We'll have to find out in the Discord chat, unless there's an incident, what was behind Brannon's early pits off the Inters when he had only done about, I think, 7 or 8 laps on them, as Hayden Lee picks up a time penalty. That is disastrous for the Aston Martin. We've been denied a showdown on the final lap. Dark Mark just has to get within 3 seconds of Hayden Elite, but he has to watch out for his rear, because that now means Atkins is going to be gunning for the victory as well. So that gap now is just 3.8 seconds. I am absolutely gutted for Hayden Elite. He'd almost pulled off a blinder here, and Brannon and Raratron still going at it hammer and tongs. The gap between the front two is effectively 0.7 of a second now, 0.6 on coming down. Dark Mark is going to catch him for the end of the race, which is going to pull all three close together. Atkins is still going to get a shot at this. 1.1 seconds is the gap. These two are going to go for it. You know they're going to battle. It's the last race of the season. They're both going to want to come away with a victory. And I think Dark Mark is about to take the net lead of this race in a lovely little switchback from Brannon, just to try and scare Raratron off the road. But Raratron's been doing this for far too long to let the Aston Martin scare him off the track like that. Let's go on board with Brannon here then. Both guys have similar age tyres. And don't worry, we will go on to the battle for the lead on the final lap. It is 2.8 seconds between Hayden Elite and Dark Mark. But there he is, Atkins, just less than a second behind the Alpine man. The champion wants to end the season with a victory. He is 2.5 seconds behind the race leader, who is carrying a 3-second time penalty now. But Atkins is in there to spoil the party in the Haas. Brannon, meanwhile, still looking to try and make the move on the Alfa Romeo. Can't quite get the power down to get the move there. Can he get the move into the hairpin? Raratron's going to go defensive. We've got a yellow flag somewhere. That is... who is that? That is a blue car of somebody. I think it's Scott. Yeah, his delta's dropping down. Brannon still unable to get the move done. We are going to move on to the front three in a second, because we do not want to miss the battle for the lead that we've been talking about. These two are still going to hammer and tongs. There's 2 battles going on. I don't want to miss any of the battles. But here we go. It's Dark Mark versus Atkins for the net race lead. It's Hayden Elite versus Dark Mark versus Atkins for the on-track lead of this race. Hayden Elite pulled a blinder to get the undercut and the lead, but Dark Mark and Atkins have driven with the bit between their teeth here. Dark Mark will want to get this move done quickly to get a car between himself and Atkins, but Atkins is coming quickly as well. Can he get the move done? This is effectively the battle for the race lead. The Haas man wants to get the move done on Dark Mark before Dark Mark gets the move done on Hayden Elite. Brannon still behind Raratron further back. Dark Mark has got a good run off that corner, that gap coming down. Here comes Dark Mark. Can he get moved done? Has a little look, but there's no room. Hayden Elite tries to close the gap, and Dark Mark looks for a move. Atkins, though, and here goes Dark Mark through into the lead of the race. Atkins follows him through, though. We're going to have a last lap shootout between the Dark Mark and Atkins for this race. Atkins takes a much better line through there, and these two are going to have a final lap shootout. Brannon, meanwhile, has got the move done on Raratron. They're side by side out of the hairpin. Can Raratron hang on? We are going to go back to the battle for the lead in a second. Whew, I'm going to lose my breath. It's the final race of the season, and these guys have absolutely 100% delivered on the promise of an absolute banger. 0.3 of a second. This is going to be it for Atkins. Can he get a run off the final corner? This is going to be his best chance. It's 0.5 second, 0.6. Dark Marker looks like he's got the perfect drive off the corner. The gap's coming down though, 0.4 of a second. It's ERS applied. All the ERS is in the favour of Atkins. He's closing. Is he going to save some in reserve for a final onslaught? Do not take your eyes off this. This is the final lap of the Portimao Grand Prix. The Portuguese Grand Prix. Last to first, the champion starting, I think it was P11. He's currently P1. These two have driven incredibly well. Here comes Atkins for a move into the hairpin. It's the Haas driver up the inside. Can he get the move? The Haas driver takes the lead, but Dark Mark hangs it right around the outside. And the Alpine man is saying, if you're going to take this off me, mate, You're going to have to try a little bit harder than that. It's 0.3 of a second, the gap between the front two. It's all no holds barred. Not all holds barred. It's no holds barred. There's going to be one more attempt, you believe, for the Haasman, and that's going to be in the hairpin, leading up. Here we go. He's not quite close enough. He needs to get as good a run as possible out of this hairpin. Oh, and a little bit of a moment, and that might cost him. Dark Mark is going to go from P11 to P1, the champion of the season here in RRF1. We rise together. Dark Mark rises. It's going to be a victory here in RRF1 at Portugal for the Monday Night Division. Your champion is going to be crowned. What a drive from the Alpine man. Atkins comes home P2. A brilliant drive from Hayden Elite. Almost pulled off the unthinkable to get the victory with a great strategy. Raratron, meanwhile, has got back ahead of Brannan. We missed that while watching the cataclysmic finale between Darkmark and Atkins, but Raratron holds off for a brilliant drive to P4. Brannan, we are wondering what the strategy and the plan was, because you have to feel that he would have been up there with Darkmark, Atkins and Hayden Elite should he not have made that early pit stop off the Inters in the first place. Baker Gaming then comes home in P7. A brilliant drive from Baker Gaming. 29 laps on those intermediate tyres, and they are basically slick tyres now. White in A72M, the people's champions, are going to come home in P8 and P9. The fans' favourite. They have produced drama personified from start to finish here in RF1, and it's been a pleasure watching them. No podium, unfortunately. We dreamt of a Scuderia dream, but unfortunately it is not meant to be. And a lovely little slide. Why not? Let's finish the season off with a bit of drama, with a bit of Tokyo drifting, or Portimao drifting, should we say, from A72 on the final lap of the race. And another little drift there, and oh, you don't want a DNF on the that would be so typical. And he's coming to the pits. The Ferrari is going to do a Schumacher here, and not for the win, but he's going to cross the line in the pit lane in true Ferrari strategic style. Okay, so he burnt your tyres out. Okay, fair enough. So that explains why Brannan pitted early off the Inter. He's burnt his tyres out. That's what Tom predicted, actually. He thought he might have burnt your tyres out. But I have to say, there's plenty of people you could give driver of the day to. Raratron for some great battling. Atkins for an incredible drive. Brilliant strategy from the Aston Martin of Hayden Elite, but it wasn't meant to be with the penalty and dropping behind them both. The tyres for the Baker Gaming to keep it going right to the end on 29 lap old intermediate tyres. They must have been as bold as Hamilton's in Turkey that time. But you have to say, he's got the accolades this season. He's Mr. Consistent. I've said it all season long. He always ends up in the end, but it's not through consistency this time. It's not through luck. He's not picked up the positions this time. Dark Mark has well and truly earned that victory. Let's invite some people to the party. Why can't I invite... I can't invite Atkins. Invite Hayden Elite. So we'll speak to Darkmark and Hayden Elite then. So our champion, our race winner, and my driver of the day, Mr. Darkmark, Hayden Elite, who pulled off a great strategy to almost take that victory away from the two front runners of Darkmark and Atkins, but it wasn't quite meant to be, as he ran out of tyres towards the end of that stint. Have we got everybody in? We do have you both in. So, after a banger of a drive, I got a message from Mr. Darkmark before this. Let me just make sure I can include everyone's audio, actually, because I haven't done this for a few weeks. Where is my stream? Okay, 1 second. Options. Party is open. Right, let me go onto my stream. Options. Party audio is now on, so you should be able to include your audio now. So yeah, I got a message from Darkmark saying, last race of the season, my last hurrah before I rejoin the racing gods of RF1 on track next season. And he promised an absolute banger of a race, and it delivered from start to finish. You didn't know who the winner was going to be until literally the last corner. We will start with Hayden Elite, who was at one point with about 6 laps to go. I thought was going to win this race. He then picked up the penalty. Then his tyres started to go off, and through came Darmark and Atkins. Hayden Elite. I'm not as familiar with you as some of the others, but you tell you what,
Yeah.
you are an impressive driver. You've driven brilliantly. P3. Tell us about your race.
That was a good one. When the rain comes, you never know what's gonna happen. Like you can spin out or like go first and last. But yeah, just get my heads down, like play it safe for the end really. And like with the early pit stop, I should have pitted maybe a bit later. 'Cause at the end, my tires were literally like gone, like 50, I think, worn.
Yeah, we see on
That's a good one.
during the race, a few guys were able to nurse those intermediate tyres, but some
Yeah,
drivers, Brandon had the same issue when he first bid onto Winters, where they just seemed to burn out.
yeah,
But I mean, you were gaining on the front two, hand over fist, and at one point I
yeah,
thought, are the front two waiting for dry weather? Are they not going to pit?
yeah. You
Um,
never know, like it's
yeah,
gonna be dry or not.
it was such an unpredictable race, and what a race to finish the season on. But yeah, absolutely cracking drive. Shame about the penalty, but you've still come away with a
Yeah,
podium at the end. So yeah, well done.
thank you.
We will move on to the champion, Mr. Dartmark, who normally when I get to a podium interview you, I say you're always there in the end. You're always there or thereabouts. You always seem to end up at the front. This wasn't one of those races where you've ended up at the front. You've absolutely stormed to this one, and you and Atkins have put
Yes.
an absolute show on.
Yeah.
Take it away. The floor is yours.
Yeah. Cheers, mate. Yeah, that was. I really, really enjoyed that. I actually all season have enjoyed these sort of reverse grid races. To be fair, they've sort of. I mean, the tracks haven't been on our side apart from this one. This one weren't too bad, but I think the idea actually is quite good and it's worked quite well. And so tonight I really enjoyed it. Didn't want to sort of force my way through. It started raining a hell of a lot earlier than what we were all expecting tonight. It was apparently meant to start raining almost halfway through, and it was raining before we even finished the formation lap. So that kind of caught us all unawares, and I almost did. Apart, obviously, when we switched to winters, I was in two minds whether to go all the way to the end or whether to just call it and just go in. And yeah, I think I made the right decision going in. Probably I was sort of I was humming and ahhing for about 4 or 5 laps, and then just decided to pull the trigger and go in and saw Hayden go through and thought, well, that's the win gone.
Yeah,
But me and Atkins have had a brilliant race, and yeah, I noticed I started reeling Hayden in, obviously where his tyres are a bit older, and
yeah,
I thought I should be able to get to him. It would be like last couple of laps where we're battling between me, Hayden, and Atkins for the win, and obviously Hayden then picked up the penalty, which
yeah,
I'm gutted for him because Hayden's had a brilliant race. He's had a brilliant like sort of part of the season since he's joined. To be fair, um, great little driver, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do next season in a full one. But I'm really happy with the result tonight, and it was a great battle with Atkins. I was constantly checking behind me to see whereabouts he was. Yeah, really, really enjoyed it. Well done to everyone that managed to finish, and cheers for streaming it, Massey.
No, absolute pleasure all season. From the ones I've could made, I know there's been some weeks where I've not been able to do it through work or whatever, but for the ones I've done, every time I commentate, this division has produced some insane racing and battling. One thing I was going to say, when it started to get wet, you seemed to finding grip where others quite weren't. I sort of made a comment that it was Lewis
Yeah,
Hamilton-esque. Did you have a
yeah.
wet setup on, or did you practice in the wet, or are you just sort of you were just
No,
a bit more comfortable?
it was just the setup I had. To be fair, I didn't change it, didn't alter it at all. But I noticed I seemed to sort of compared to the drivers around me, like they're all saying, "Oh, I'm sliding a bit now." I wasn't sliding. I actually felt pretty planted. It was only when it got obviously too wet, it became almost undrivable. But yeah, I did find that I had a bit more grip than some of the others around me at the time. So yeah, that's probably the right sort of explanation that you gave there. To be fair.
Yeah, well, it was an absolutely cracking
Yeah,
drive. I've
down
just
in the middle.
seen that our other protagonist in the battlefield has just joined the party. We'll speak to Atkins in a second. But yeah, as I said before, my driver of the day. I think whoever won that race would have got my driver of the day, and it was literally up in the air until the final corner, just like the race win.
Yeah,
So brilliant driving, and congratulations on the championship. I am gunning
cheers,
for you
mate.
next season, so
Yeah.
you have a target on your back now. Um, moving on
The only
to Mr.
it's,
Atkins. Sorry, go on.
I'm not sure if Atkins will be able to include audio. That's the only thing.
I should have now.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I've just ticked the box,
I'll shut up then.
so it should be good.
Perfect. Mr. Atkins, that was like watching sort of Lennox Lewis, Mike Tyson sort of back and throw between you and Dartmark. I mean, you were battling. It was insane racing. At one point, I thought you both sort of settled for second and third, and you were going to continue your battle. Then it came back to you, and then the last lap was just... I mean, I've lost my voice streaming RF1 before, but I think I was screeching like a little girl at one point.
I almost played into his hands because I thought the 30-second lap was actually the last lap. So I used all my battery on the 30-second lap, and then it carried on. I was like, fuck. Great race.
So, Mr. Atkins, the floor is now yours. Tell us about that insane race.
Oh yeah, to be honest, that was probably one of the most enjoyable races I've had. Let's see, definitely the best one I've had this season. Yeah, fair play to Mark. That last lap, he just positioned his car exactly where it needed to be. Like I think turn 4 when tried to make a move on you. Ideally, I wanted to be on the outside of it because you get more traction around there. But obviously, you put the car in the right place, and I had to go up the inside, and I couldn't do anything with it. Yeah, I was pretty steady throughout the race, but there was about 3 or 4 laps. I just started losing a bit of grip, and I nearly lost the car. And I think that's when Mark took the lead. Yeah, I was a bit surprised I managed to sort of stay within the second lap with him. But yeah, other than that, it was a great race. I'm not usually too good in the wet, but that was all right today.
It almost sounds like you may have been going through... So a few of the drivers, they get sort of 8 or 9 laps into the stint, and it almost felt like the tyres were going off. Maybe you got to that point, but you fought through that, whereas there was some confusion in the chat as to why Brannan pitted so early off his inters, because that sort of threw away a chance of victory, but he said he just burned through his tyres. But yeah, I mean, it was just topsy-turvy, end-to-end. I mean, it was like watching a game of ping-pong with regards to who was going to win the race. I mean, 7 laps to go, and I had no idea who was going to win. So hats off to all 3 of you and everybody else that's tuned in. Big shout out to Bakey Gaming in the chat, who's just rubbed it in that his tyres lasted 30 laps. And he'll take 7th place after breaking his chair. So not only did he have to lie horizontal while all you guys were running out of tyres, he lasted 30 laps while lying horizontal. So maybe I should rethink my driver of the day for that one. But no, brilliant season, brilliant racing. I'm looking forward to getting on track with you next season. But it doesn't end there for RF1, because of course on Wednesday, the Wednesday division take on Portimao with Gunners in the box, and then you've got your finale. Is it your finale for the 100% still? Is that the same? Yeah, so finale on Saturday for the 100% division. So make sure you tune in. It's the final race of the season, and then keep your eyes open on the Discord for all the news surrounding the new season. I've been Massey, signing off for the final time this season. Maybe back in, who knows? But thank you all for tuning in. We've had some great views, some great chats, some great jokes along the way, and I have loved every single minute of it. So thank you again, and peace out, my brethren.